There's something very magical about coffee and donuts. It's pretty much the breakfast of champions, or the late night indulgence, and it's also the perfect contrast of bitter and sweet. But if I told you that one of the world's most celebrated chefs, Thomas Keller, took this humble pairing and transformed it into a Michelin-starred masterpiece, this is pretty much what you would get. Today, we're recreating the French Laundry's legendary coffee and donuts, a dish that proves the simplest things, when done perfectly, can be truly unforgettable. These aren't your average diner donuts or your standard cup of joe. We're making an airy, buttery, and slightly tangy donut and a luscious espresso semifreddo. In the late 90s, Thomas Keller introduced this dish as a way to add playfulness to his tasting menu. Instead of a heavy, complicated dessert, he wanted something nostalgic, comforting yet refined. The result? A semifreddo that captures the essence of a perfect espresso paired with a warm cinnamon sugar dusted donut that is impossibly light and fluffy. It even puts Krispy Kreme and Dunkin' to shame. Now let's talk about the donuts. Unlike cake style donuts, these are made with a Polish, which you see here and you saw me making prior to this point. And that's basically a pre-ferment. And it's going to get enriched with some butter, eggs, and milk. And it's going to help create a ultra light pillowy texture. The key here is to allow the Polish to ferment for at least 12 hours. 24 is even better. But then once you take that Polish, you're going to add it to the base of the dough mixture, which we're making here. And then knead it until it's smooth and elastic. So it helps develop a structure while keeping them nice and tender. So using a KitchenAid with the dough hook attachment, you're going to knead your milk, your flour, and yeast until it comes together. Slowly add in your melted butter. Make sure that the butter is cool and not hot, because otherwise you run the risk of killing the yeast. Then you'll add your egg yolks. You want to add these one at a time. 2 slipped in at a time. That's fine. It's not going to really affect it too much. But stop it, scrape down the sides, and then add the Polish to your dough. And then continue to mix. This part's going to take roughly 10 minutes. It could take a little bit more. If you find that your dough is still too sticky, feel free to add about another 5 grams of flour. Mix it again and see if it comes together. If it doesn't, add another 5. But it is going to be a sticky dough, so you don't want it to be extremely dry. Like this right here is just perfectly moist. Then you're going to cover it, put it in the fridge, and allow it to ferment overnight. But if you're in a rush, you could always just put it in a warm place and allow it to double in size or rise for about an hour, hour and 30 minutes. You'll see it kind of expand quite a bit, and then you'll know it's ready. But in the meantime, let's make our semifreddo. So not only do the donuts allow this dish to stand out, but the espresso semifreddo is unlike anything that you've probably tasted. It's not ice cream, it's not a sorbet, it's an airy egg-based mixture. And what happens is that you're going to be whisking your yolks, as you see here. They turn from bright yellow to this opaque white color. And then you add vanilla bean. I didn't have any vanilla bean, so I used some homemade vanilla extract that I've been making for about 4 years now. I'll show you that in a little bit. But once it turns pale white, you'll add your vanilla extract and whip it again. Set it aside into a mixing bowl with ice, or like me, you could use a little ice pack. That'll work. Then from there, you're going to mix up your heavy cream. You can do this by hand, you don't have to have a KitchenAid. But you want to whip it so it's just barely stiff. You don't want to over whip it because otherwise it'll turn into butter. But once you have your heavy cream whipped up, add it in 2 parts into that beautiful, luscious egg yolk mixture that you have. And fold it in, don't mix it aggressively because otherwise you're going to release all the air that you're working so hard to create in this dish. And remember that while you're making this, keep it cold. You want it to be ice cold. So keep it in a water bath with ice or an ice bag while you're doing the next steps for it. Finally, you're going to do your egg white whip, and this is going to give it even more airiness. This is a 2-part process, so once you start seeing your egg whites kind of foam up a little bit, is when you're going to be adding your sugar to this mixture. You're going to want to whip this into a soft peak, and this is what a soft peak looks like. It kind of has a point, but that point folds over, and it kind of holds its shape just like so. Now you're going to take your beautifully whipped egg whites, and in 3 parts, you're going to whip this into your egg yolk and heavy cream espresso semifreddo mixture. Remember, you want to fold it in very gently. Treat it like a newborn, handle with caution and care. Finally, grab your coffee mugs that you're going to fill with your semifreddo batter, and fill it up about 3/4 of the way to the top of your coffee mug. Then you'll cover it with plastic, place it in the freezer, and allow it to freeze for 8 or more hours, so it's nice and solid. Also, feel free to tap it down so it evens out. Just don't tap it too hard. And here is my vanilla extract that I've been working on for, I don't know, 4 years or so. Now to make the cinnamon sugar, very easy. Get cinnamon sticks, grind about 1/4 of one into a fine powder, and mix it into your sugar. This is about 1/4 cup of sugar and a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. After you pull out your dough from the refrigerator, or if you've been allowing it to proof without refrigerating, you're going to lightly flour the surface of a cutting board and lightly flour the dough. And when you roll it out, you want it to be about 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch thick. I went a 1/4 inch, and you want to try to get this into a rectangle. This way you kind of maximize the yield that you'll be getting from cutting these out. Once you finally have your rectangle or square, use a 2-inch round cutter and punch out your 9 or so donuts. Then from there, you're going to use a smaller round. This is about a quarter inch, or I'm sorry, a half inch round, and punch out your donut holes. So you have beautiful little donut shapes like this. Get these donuts and put them on either parchment that's been sprayed lightly with nonstick spray, or you can use a Silpat, which is what I'm going to use. And when you place plastic over the top of this, go ahead and grease it down as well, and then cover and allow to rest for another hour. Also, a quick tip: if you're working in an area that's a little bit cooler, it's going to take longer for your donuts to proof or to rise. So one trick that I've learned is if you turn your oven light on and place these in the oven, it usually is around 70-ish degrees inside your oven with the light on. So that'll kind of make it proof a little bit faster since it's more warm and humid in there with the light on. So here's where the magic happens. Using a crock pot or a pot like this, fill it up with some vegetable oil, canola oil, peanut, like whatever you want to fry. I typically use vegetable oil for frying, so that's what we're using here. Get it to 325 degrees Fahrenheit and just do one donut at a time. The best method is to get it about 5 to 10 degrees higher than where you want it. This way, when you go in to add more donuts, the temperature doesn't drop so rapidly and it won't drop so much. This way you can maintain that beautiful temperature and great golden color for your donuts. Also, don't crowd the pot with, more than 3 donuts. It's going to be easier for you to manage 3 than it is to manage 6. And it just gives them plenty of room to fry. And again, the temperature of the oil is not going to drop so drastically. When they're done frying, place them on a rack. This way the oil could just drip down and allow them to cool just slightly before you roll them in cinnamon sugar. Now for the donut holes, these fry up really quick. Don't make the mistake that I did, throw them all in there at once because it's even harder to manage, like I said previously, but they came out just fine. But the best part is rolling them around in the cinnamon sugar. Feel free to have one now while they're nice and warm and delicious and just sugary and rich. I mean, I may have snacked on a couple before doing this, so, fair warning. Now, the last step in this is creating your espresso foam with whole milk. So when you do this, heat up your whole milk. You don't want it scalding hot. You don't want it at a boil. You want it at a nice warm simmer. And you're going to take a frother and froth it up. You could also do this manually with the whisk. However, you won't get this beautiful of a foam that way. So if you want to spend 10, 15 bucks on this, and it comes in handy in multitudes of ways. It's great for making hot chocolate. So another pro tip. Finally comes the plating. And this is the French Laundry's legendary coffee donuts, created in your home kitchen. And as I've made this dish, it's proof that fine dining doesn't necessarily have to be fussy. It's all about precision, technique, and ordering simple flavors. If you try this at home, let me know how it goes in the comments below. And if you love deep dives into some of my favorite cookbooks that I'm showing on my channel, Don't forget to give it a like, subscribe, comment, and I will be forever grateful. Enjoy your coffee and donuts, like I'm going to very soon. Alright, so here we have the coffee and donuts. The little espresso semifreddo. And these beautiful donuts. And they're so good. Really light, really fluffy. Cinnamon sugar is great. And I mean, giving Krispy Kreme a run for their money here. Not sure. It's really airy. So good. Delicate. A little cinnamon cigar. But let's try out this semifreddo here. Got a little foam, a little bit of the semifreddo in there. I got it's going to be a massive bite. A little bit more of it there. So you want to leave this out so it gets a little soft. Here, I'm going to uncover that so you can actually see semifreddo right there, nice and frozen. This is great. It's a fantastic dessert. Really light, really airy, just delicate, really good espresso. I mean, perfect pair. Espresso semifreddo, light airy donut. And dangerous. I'm glad I only made about 9 of them, because I'm gonna eat them all. It's my last video, and I'm glad I ended it with this. Well, last video for the French Laundry. I hope you all really enjoyed watching my process through the French Laundry Cookbook, and hopefully you give a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe. Really appreciate it. It's about 90% of you who aren't subscribed, so it helped me a lot if you did subscribe. And I'm enjoying cooking from all of the books that I have. I mean, you can see some in the background right over there. That's the bookcase that I don't really look at very much. Really old classical books. But yeah, one day I'll give you a tour of the whole bookcase, or I guess the 5 bookcases I have. Until then, thanks a lot. I'm gonna get out of here and probably eat the rest of these donuts because fantastic. The air pocket.